Should we become a passing team this year?
And I'll add,
Couple weeks.
just let me add, that was the game plan, Chris. They came in, wanted to run the football, and they toggled it because they couldn't run the football, which they deserve credit for.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. It's a breaking news day edition as Brandon Graham has officially made his return to the Philadelphia Eagles for the 16th season.
16, baby. 16.
John, not many can say that. It's one thing to play in the NFL. It's one thing to play 5 years in the NFL. It's another thing to play 10 years in the NFL.
It's another thing to play 16 with the same team.
I know.
In the free agency era.
16 with the Philadelphia Eagles. John, real quick, we got Chris Franklin in the green room. He's going to join us in a second here. The Eagles had a roster spot, I believe, correct? So they don't need any change. Yeah, so they had a roster spot. So Brandon Graham, no changes on the roster outside of adding Brandon Graham. So big stuff there. And a fan favorite and one of the greatest Eagles of all time, really, if we're being honest, has returned to the Philadelphia Eagles. We will see what kind of spark, if any, he can give to this defensive line. I believe he can. He had 4 sacks and 21 pressures last year and 324 snaps. Let's go to our main man, Chris Franklin, set to join us here on Birds 365. John, it looks like we're getting my favorite version of Chris, which is Outdoor Chris, who joins us right here on the show. You can follow him at C. Franklin News.
Pretty chilly this morning, man. Chris. Got the Under Armour on. I see. Yeah, it's nice out there, nice and crisp.
Kind of enjoy these days while I can. I feel bad I haven't done it more earlier this season, but I'm feeling like, you know what? It's almost November. I gotta do this out a couple of times.
Got to do it. Got to get it out of the way before it gets. I think tomorrow it's going to be chilly for the foreseeable future. So maybe it'll start feeling like football weather. Feels like gets later and later each year. You know what reminds you of football, though? Certainly in Philadelphia, Chris Franklin. Brandon Graham.
the over-under when reporters are let in today that we hear locker room closed.
Locker rooms closed.
Or Wednesday. Locker room closed are going to be about under a half minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to think, hearing a little that laugh that's going on right there, and just all of a sudden how many people are going to be. Yeah, he's I'll be honest, I was a little shocked. I'm still a little shocked that he's coming back, even after you hear all the reports about how he talks and everything else. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tremendous guy. Everything about him is just, speaks Philadelphia Eagles football. Most games played, longest, tenure. To do it in the free agency era, 16 consecutive seasons with the same team. A leader, Nick Sirianni, I always remember that quote, every workplace needs a Brandon Graham, sets the temperature, all that kind of stuff, energy guy, juice guy. And I'm going to be negative Nelly here.
Oh.
Chris, I got to get Nakobe Dean on the field. The only way I get Nakobe Dean on the field is to get Jahad Campbell on the edge. And if you're bringing in Brandon Graham, and they're still talking about trading people with November 4th and bringing in an edge rusher, they're not thinking about that. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think it's a ramp up with Nakobe, especially coming back. So I think you may see a little bit. And I love what Vic did and using some of those blitz pressures. Like I've always been seeing that 3, even though it's not a 3-3-5, whatever. To me, it's in my mind because I think of John Campbell as an off-the-ball guy. Seeing that 3-5 and the looks and the stunts you get, there's more to come with that. And I think it's more of okay, let's see what Nakobe has. We see it a little bit more and more. With Brandon coming back, I would think he'd be like more of like a situational edge pass rusher guy because he's got the move set. He can set it up. And then more importantly, he's a leadership guy, so you need that. So I have no problem with those there. I'm still wouldn't be surprised if I'm looking at Bradley Chubb as the target, especially with his relationship with Vic Fangio. With the way he's one of the guys that was not upset with Fangio when he's down at the Dolphins too. He knows it with the Broncos, so I wouldn't be surprised if it might be close because a lot of teams are calling in the Dolphins like, no, we're not playing this. All right, fine. We have fire sale coming up because they're dumpster fire and they're about to get rid of maybe GM too, so you might go. But yeah, For what I think is a more of a situational guy, what they're going to probably ask of him to do, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think he'd be effective, but yeah, 3-3-5's come more here to stay, and I'm looking forward to that.
Chris, so if they did go that route, which I kind of agree with you, somebody's got to go, as we've talked about in terms of playing time. I mean, are you putting Nakobe Dean on the bench and keeping him there? Because then you're not going to have Jahad Campbell at the edge at all. So would he fall back? Do you think Campbell would go to the bench maybe? Nakobe, I thought, really provided something at the linebacker spot last week when he was out there, certainly in the run fits. How do you see that part of it playing out?
I think it's more somebody on the edge group. I don't think because you don't want to slow down the progress because Jahad Campbell's gotten a lot of time. He's gotten a lot of he's part of that rhythm and comfort. It's almost like you don't feel like he's a rookie in the sense of the amount of time he's getting and the amount of what he's contributing in that rotation. You may thought of him to back off a little bit. And with Nakobe, he's got fresh legs as well too. The injury coming back, but he's fresher as well too. Can still fly around with that. And you know how the effect he has on vocal leadership role in ways that he's talking that getting in. I know you can use balls to green dot, but communicate with the defense, what have you. So you're going to use that. I think that we know how Vic loves his linebackers. That stays. I think maybe you can get away with maybe Azeez Ojulari. Maybe he's gone. Maybe you take him out the rotation later, or maybe he's low, even though he's injured, but still, like when he comes back, it's like, yeah, okay, play from there. Maybe we get the Phantom. Oh well, he's hurt a bit. Let's put him on IR.
Could get the Phantom sprained ankle coming back, especially when Nolan comes back, hopefully after the bye. Then it becomes a little bit interesting to see how they put all the pieces together. Obviously, Nolan, I think, is still number one. Jalix will be number two. And then it'll be interesting to see where Brandon Graham fits in. I think Uche's played well. And so he's going to be 3 or 4, depending on what happens. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously he can play. He could play last year. I don't think he wanted to retire. The Eagles kind of talked him into the storybook ending part of it. And this is the reason why you have to think, the business of football, you have to think long-term and all that kind of stuff. But it's great to see BG back. It'll be exciting to see him in the locker room. He's been around, hasn't been around as much as I thought he'd be. He's doing a lot of stuff. So we'll see if they can get him up to speed, get him on the field against the Giants this weekend. I don't see why not if he's healthy and he's been working out. I mean, obviously, Big trust him. Do you think we're going to see him this weekend?
If I'm them, I'm just waiting till after the bye. I would do, depending on your needs. Like I can see him. I can see him in a very, very limited role. Like the workouts and all that stuff you're doing there. He doesn't need to know that much terminology because he knows same system. So you can pretty much plug and play him if you want to. I just hold him out until after the bye with them because let him get another weekend, let him get another week acclimated, and then you throw him out and go that way to see what it is. I know that you would love to have him, Giants. I'd probably wait after the bye and say, you know what? This is what we're running with. Maybe it gives Vic another week to think of another package to use them in and to disguise it and use it for another team later on. So I'd personally, I think I would be surprised if he does that. Personally, I pull him out till after the bye and then come back and say, this is what we're throwing at you and we're going with this.
All right, Chris, what did you learn from Sunday's game for the Philadelphia Eagles? Jalen Hurts delivered a perfect passer rating football game. He was electric and masterful in that football game. What'd you make of the game this weekend, Chris? What were your takeaways from that thing?
One, that you can use Devontae Smith more than just regular go routes that we've seen many times. Because look at that. It's funny. I know each game has its own way of playing out, but you look at that Chiefs game and how he was utilized and just the regular 5 routes, and they're all like pretty much go routes, stuff like that. And then you look at the way they used him more crossing the field. They used him more that way. I like what I saw. They said Kevin Couture, what have you. I like what they did with him in that aspect, and the way they used AJ Brown in that aspect, using diversifying their routes. So I thought that was good on that part. When it came to Jalen Hurts, that was a top 5 performance in my mind for him. Just for the way the poise in the pocket, the calmness, except for the touch he had on those deep throws. Because a lot of times We see a lot of these guys with the here. Oh, he got a great big arm. You see this, man? A great big throw. The touch and the way he gave his receivers one to AJ at the end hung a little bit, but the way he gave his receivers to get a chance to throw that. We've seen that with the dagger and what have you. But I like that we saw that coming back. The thing that really worries me is still the run game. We still haven't get Saquon Barkley going because I think now if you duplicate that same success with the passing game you saw against the Giants, teams might think, "Oh, this is a one-off bill. It's the Vikings, what have you, blah, blah, blah." I think if you do it again one more time against the Giants and that defense, that oh my goodness, it's like the same thing talk about every year now, especially with Shane Bowen, the Giants defensive coordinator. You take a few more shots now, all of a sudden they can't play that two deep zone, and they can't have 8 men near the box. Maybe that opens some things up as well too. So yeah, I'm still a little concerned about that. And then now you got to worry about the Cam Jurgens stuff. That run game needs to get going.
Yeah, Cam Jurgens could be problematic if he's got to miss some time. In game is different than preparing when you have a whole week to prepare for it. Do you think they still stick with Brett Toth at center, or do you think they go in a different direction? You move Landon to center, as they did last year. You can play Toth at guard in that instance. He's had the trouble with snaps in training camp for years. Drew Kendall, you got a rookie who's a natural sender. Which way would Chris Franklin go if he's got to miss some time?
If this was a playoff game, I'd move Landon in the center and I put Toth at guard. I'm holding my breath. If I put, I'll be honest, I was waiting for it. You hate to say it, I was waiting for the errant shotgun snap to happen, and it didn't happen. So maybe a calm situation, maybe he's okay with that. Maybe he's okay with that. I still say you don't move too many pieces and you put keep Toth at center right now, and then you roll with that. You may need to change some of your blocking schemes a little bit because we saw the holds and everything when it came in the interior line and so the interior zone runs, stuff like that. But I think overall, you don't want to mess with too much right now. You finally got Landon back on that one time. The chemistry, and you hope Landon's good as possible because when you have Landon and Mailata running on that left side, we seen that's the side that Barkley, when he was rolling last year, that was the side he had successful running off the edge. You're getting 5, 6, 7 yards carry on average. So I think you keep those guys together. Steen and Johnson have their own chemistry they're trying to build that way too. Keep those guys going, and then you hope to go. So, hey, do what you best you can. I know you got Dexter Lawrence, and we'll do the best you can to help you double them in the pass run and in the passing game and stuff like that. But don't want to change too much stuff out right now.
Chris, if we just remove 24 of the season from the equation right now, should this team be a passing team right now? I mean, they can't run, Chris. Now, John said it before the game last week, if you're going to get the run game going, the Minnesota Vikings are a perfect team to do it against. They don't have many run stoppers. They're not a great run defense. They couldn't get the run game going. Again, should we become a passing team this year?
And I'll add, just let me add, that was the game plan, Chris. They came in, wanted to run the football, and They toggled it because they couldn't run the football, which they deserve credit for. But the plan, and don't listen to me, listen to the players, run the football, and they couldn't run the football against a bad run support team. Sorry, Zander, but I just wanted to add that.
I think, by the way defenses are playing them right now, if they're putting 8, that should automatically be okay. I'm going to throw the ball. You put 8, 9 in a box, I'm going to use the 2 wide receivers that A, are one of the best pairings in the league, and B, you're paying them a lot of money too, so you're investing, knowing that they're the best players at the position in the league. I'm using those guys and I'm attacking them to soften up to set up the run. It's almost last year was the run set the pass. This year is going to have to be the pass to set up the run. Because until you get those teams to actually respect it and go, wow, okay, maybe we need to put an extra safety back there because we're getting burnt. Wow, maybe we just need to stop playing so much zone because they're starting to figure this out and they're starting to pick it apart. Now you start to go, okay, well, they start to play man. I think that plays a lot better off because I think they have better people believe the RPO a little bit more. They believe the zone read a little bit more. And I think that opens up so much. So they really need that passing game to start taking over and starting exploiting those defenses. And then I think we start seeing Barkley really starting to take off. But until you show it consistently, I don't think everybody's going to respect it in that fact that they say they're still going to be a running
So
team.
last year it was run to pass. This year it's the opposite. It might be pass to run for this offense.
To start out early on, I think, yeah, until those defenses start to respect that passing game a little more, I think that's where we'll start to see that. And then once you have that going, then I think some of the fears of what this offense can be can alleviate, because I think they will really, really, really start going and start and make it unpredictable. Because now you're looking at like 1st and 10. All right, maybe we could do that. And that's not to say you can't still run the ball, like have the fear, put the fear of God or run the ball into them, because you still, if you get the effective, at least you're even maybe set up a draw. You start the draws a little bit more effective, because everybody thinks you're going to pass the first down more and more. All of a sudden, Barkley was like 4 or 5, and like, and the fact that we're saying Barkley gets 4 or 5 on first down, it's like, wow, that's a good thing. That's very telling.
All right, I'm gonna play Shane Bowen. I don't know Shane from Adam, but I'll tell you what I'm gonna do this week if I'm the New York Giants defensive coordinator. You mentioned him. I got Dexter Lawrence going against probably Brett Toth at center. I'm gonna look at Sexy Dexy and say, hey, it's your game, it's your day, and I'm gonna play the safeties in the parking lot. And I'm going to say run the football against Dexter Lawrence, and I'm playing cover 2 all night long if I'm the New York Giants. What's your move, Chris, if you're Kevin Patullo?
If I'm Patullo, I'm using, and I'm probably going to do this on the first drive. I'd set him up with a trap, because he's going to be amped up going, oh, if Toth is playing, oh, I got Toth, I'm going to set him up. You set up, you get one good, it doesn't have to be effective. You get one block off the side. He doesn't see it from either a tackle, trap, or a landing, put it up. Oh, maybe I should look after this. And then it settles down. Maybe it's almost like, okay, maybe I gotta look out the side of my eye after that. And then maybe you slow him down a little bit. Then from there, you start, I think, after that, maybe second, third, fourth, whatever play in that first drive. Then I think you go play action and test them deep, and you hope you hit it. Because that way, I think it really, really alleviates, like, because I think I'll make it a pass every time. It's the first 15 plays. I'm probably making about 10 passes, 5 runs, which is weird to say because we want this in the games of Giants. The Giants secondary also still is not that great. You can get
no, it's not. But I'm going to say hi to I think it's Tyler Nubin, and I don't know if Javon Holland is healthy, but I'm going to say hi to them in the D lot, because that's where they're going to be playing.
That's why
that's where they're going to be playing.
That's why I think if you get that trap the first time, or even a counter, something that gets him moving one side and then he goes the bleach. Oh no! And I think you get that, and you still that early on in his mind. I think that slows him down mentally, and then also I think it gives you some more space to operate freely, stuff like that. So that's why I do, and let them play it there. I think, and it's like that. You just take what the defense gives you: slant, curls, and then you go with sluggo, slant, curl, sluggo, in that order, or do a slant.
It's going to work against Isaiah Rodgers, our old buddy. The sluggo is going to work against Isaiah Rodgers. I'll tell you that. Yeah, the Giants, I don't like their corners, although Adebo's, I liked him with the Saints, but he's not playing well. And Cordell Blott got Jalen Hurts last time, so I'm sure that
my question is less about the players and more about the scheme. You know, the Eagles beat up on man coverage.
They have a better scheme to deal with the Eagles.
Well, because the Eagles have been struggling against zone coverage. You know, they're going to drop right back into that.
Yeah, I would think.
Here's something that could play in this factor as well too. Some of those players, we all saw the Brian Burns video about dropping the 8.
Yeah,
I'm seeing more and more, like that's one of the things where you start open question. That's going to be on top of his mind. Is he going to want to try to break a tendency and try to be over aggressive? A, B, if you get this team down, the defense down early enough, are they going to start wondering, like, what's going on with this? What are we doing?
Well, you know,
Giants DC, I'm not even looking at the Vikings tape. My game plan was better, right? I mean, what?
Certainly for the Eagles, that's what I think. Like I said all day, like that. You know, we always talk about division games being surprising. That's because you know the opponent. Like, how many times did I say leading up to the game, Zander? You know, Minnesota builds itself to beat Detroit, or in theory, not that they're going to beat them, but that's who they're shooting for. The Giants are shooting to beat the Eagles. That's their mentality. And I do think that they had at least a good plan, and it worked out well for them, obviously, at MetLife. But yeah, they're better equipped I would say styles make fights. Their style is better equipped to deal with the Eagles offense than Minnesota's style, which is poor Isaiah Rodgers is out there on an island with A.J. Brown. It's not going to work.
Right. And you're right there. They're in that north, so they're built to play versus the Lions and the Packers, more so than the Eagles.
Yeah. I mean, and that's every division. That's every division.
Right.
There's the way you get into the playoffs, and then there's the way you get to the playoffs, and then from there, that's how you just go and see. You hope you match up well from there on out. That's the easiest way to get into the playoffs. Beat your division, and you're in. So
but to bring up your point about Brian Burns, defensive players hate when you're not aggressive, but sometimes you're better off not being aggressive. In the case of the collapse in Denver, I think it was a bad job. But in the case of the Eagles, I think playing zone might be a good plan. So it toggles with the opposition as well. But because I still want to see, if you're playing if you're playing that style of football, so think old school Tony Dungy cover 2, the hole shots, the open, the seams, make that freaking linebacker run the pole, carry it down the middle of the field. The Eagles don't throw those passes. That's where you beat the cover 2, unless you have Derek Brooks running. Remember Jihad Campbell doing it earlier this year, the athleticism? There's very few guys who can do that at linebacker. And then outside, you have those little turkey hole shots in between the corner and the safety. That's what I want to see the Eagles do. Can they do that? I don't know. Chris Franklin, what do you think?
I think they can. It's a matter of just can they draw it up to disguise it as something else. Because I think a lot of times the teams are just sitting on them and looking like, okay, I got this 1-2. Okay, I know he's going to do this. Okay, he's going to do this. Okay, A.J. Brown was running, for lack of better words, either slants or goes the whole season. Okay, Devontae was pretty much running those go routes or curls. If you start to do, I think you can set them up. If anything, I'd use what they did, what the Giants were supposed to successfully and using against them. If they thought them seeing them go sitting and doing the curl, sitting and doing that one too, go do pump and goes because they get aggressive. They're pretty young there back there too. It's just a simple dobo. If you think you're pretty aggressive, let them go ahead, pump it and go. This is where you need your offensive line to really show up this week. If you can do that, just give them an extra second. I think it's there. If Jalen pulls the trigger, I think it's there. If AJ and Devontae are able to get their separation or enough separation, I think it's there. Also, I would be surprised if I don't know too many reasons before. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to flood it a little bit too, roll Jalen out a little bit, like a semi rollout to one side, and then you run levels or you run floods. So that way you're getting away from Dexter Lawrence, and then also maybe you have Dallas Goedert running a deep cross, maybe a 20-yard cross. Maybe you have the slot guy, whoever it could be, John Dotz, whatever, running about like 10 and out. And then you have your dump off guy that you sit, and then you can set so much stuff out. You can set up the smash route. There's so much stuff you can do off that, but it's a matter of them being creative enough and being willing to be aggressive enough to try to attack it and use the Giants' aggressiveness to try to stop it against them as well too, because they're looking, especially after that loss, they're looking to watch that route. They know they're pretty feel confident, like, oh, we need to see my 17 before we can play with them. Oh, I know, I've seen it before. You go up, and then after you set those stuff up, they can go deep behind after all that other stuff.
Chris, how do you evaluate Jalen Hurts so far this year? 7 games down.
I say this, if before the Vikings game, I probably gave it a B-. This time after that game, I'd probably say B, solid B, because that I think given what it hasn't been pretty. Like it hasn't been like the last we saw him in the playoffs, but he's been efficient. He's been able to, like, you look at the completions percentage, you look at the decision making for the most part in terms of not turning the ball over. I like that. I wish he was throwing the ball and trying to throw some of those routes to the receivers earlier on. It's like it's almost like we saw with McNabb when he didn't want to throw the interception, but he held it on too much, which is nice because you don't want to turn the ball over, but sometimes you have the routes that are actually there. The guys are breaking away late, a second later. And by that time, you're rolling out, you're scrambling, and it's going from there. But I think overall, when you look at all the other factors and everything else, I think it's been a B right now. Solid B.
Yeah, Jalen's so interesting, man. I have a really difficult time because, some of the awful statistical games I thought he played well, starting with Dallas. Like, I thought he played a phenomenal game against the Cowboys, and you read the box score and you say, well, that's not that great. Um, Such a unique player. I say it all the time. I use that word. Um, and then he does things like you're never expecting, like this particular, obviously, the first perfect passer rating this season, the third in Eagles franchise history. Um, it's just crazy. And you say, why can't there be a little bit more consistent? You can't expect that every week. I mean, it's absurd. You can't have a 158-3 every week. But why can't there be more consistency from week to week? I think that's the last piece of the puzzle.
It's I don't want to say that. I think sometimes you just go with the hand give. You don't want to be being a freestyler. Say if you get a play call in and you see something and you're like, I don't really want this ain't gonna work, but you don't want to change the play because you're like, this ain't gonna work. And then so you start getting up corner and going, yo, look, here's a call the play and what's going on. I think I like it when he's able to go more no no huddle and up tempo because I think I trust his instincts and able to go call the right play, call what he sees. I know sometimes it comes from the sideline as well too, but I like his instincts when he sees, okay, we're going to run this, and he just goes and rips it. I think when you look at some of the designs early on, I think he was more hampered by the initial play calling than what he's doing. Because if you had that type of game plan you saw Sunday against, say, the Chiefs, even though they won, I think they would have had that too against the Broncos. Because I think they would have won that game. I think they would have won that game as well too. So I think he's doing the best with what he's been giving so far, and I think it's catching up where Patul is starting to change it up a little bit, or the game plan, whoever's involved in the game plan, what have you, is starting to change up a little bit. So the fact that you see it starting to get a little better to trust it a little more to start throwing that ball, and I think eventually it'll catch up once the running games. Something like
Yeah. No, it isn't. He is an interesting player. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I tweeted this out. I'm like, Jalen Hurts has his best passing game of the year and a perfect passer rating against Brian Flores, his number 2 ranked pass defense in the NFL. He's just an interesting player, Chris. He really is an interesting player, but I think this team is going to need him to be an MVP week in and week out because defense isn't as good. Run game's not going. Where else do you look, man? I think MVP Jalen is going to be needed week in and week out for this team too, at least right now until they can figure out this run game.
yeah, it's one we have to be in his hands. It really is. So if he continues the aggressiveness, I think that offense just needs to be aggressive. Continue to be aggressive with it. And the one thing I do see the one thing I see, I don't think it's just as physical as you've seen in the past. I mean, last year you saw it could be attributed to the injuries on the offensive line, but it looked like it's not as like, okay, we're going to smash. Let's smash it. You look at Detroit. You see it seems like that. You see Detroit the way they're playing right
Boy,
now.
Penei Sewell is the funnest offensive lineman I've ever seen to watch. You never think of, oh, that's fun to watch. Penei Sewell's like, well, Quentin Nelson was like that for a while too. I heard somebody I thought it was a great description. Quentin Nelson at his height was offensive line porn. I think Penei Sewell is offensive line porn. Um, he does amazing things, Penei Sewell.
How do I imagine that being like, oh my goodness, watch that land block. Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It really is. But yeah, but we started this, and I'm glad I got you on that one. We started this with BG. I want to end it with BG at C Franklin News. Make sure you follow Chris on the X platform. Does a tremendous job at NJ.com. I always like when I can make them laugh. That's part of what I try to do. Our buddy Mike Sealski tweeted this about Brandon Graham, and I agree with it. So I want to give Mike some credit. The Eagles will announce today that they're signing a 37-year-old defensive end who retired after last season, a season in which he tore his triceps twice. I'm adding twice. If this player's name weren't Brandon Graham, we'd be focused a lot more on how desperate this team is to improve its lousy pass rush. I think he's 100% right. I don't think this is a good thing or a good sign other than I love Brandon Graham.
Sometimes you need that. I mean, even when he was playing last year before the triceps, he was effective. But sometimes you just need to hear that guy like BG on. You saw, we saw how many those young edge rushers. Whenever you mention him, Nolan Smith, I know he's out right now. That one too, Jalen Hunt. We've seen pass and even now, like when they mentioned BG, oh BG, yeah, that's like maybe that's the boost they need. Like it's because when you have somebody that's been there for so long, you're trying to find your footing. You're trying to find out how we move on, how do you do this. It's not like you're dead or anything, but how do you move on and go from that? And it just feels weird. At least for now, you get that safety blanket back. Who can also, yeah.
Is
By
that
the
what
way,
it is though? Is it the who's the Peanuts character that had the security
Linus?
blanket? Linus, yeah, Linus. Is that what it is? Linus needs his blanket. Is that what it is?
But also,
I might use that, Chris. Thanks.
No problem. Like sometimes you hear the lights, please, and sometimes he's the voice of reason. Sometimes he's also effective too. So we can do that slingshot. I'm breaking down the Peanuts right down that too. That sling, like what he's able to do with that blanket too, is still effective. As long as you're able to do that, as long as you're able to get pressure still, which he showed he was able to do, hey, it's worth a shot. You still have, what is it, 2 weeks now? November 4th,
November
whatever.
4th, yeah.
Yeah. So
2 weeks from today, right?
2 weeks from today, yep.
Yeah.
All right,
Bradley.
Chris, final one. You think the Giants sweep us?
Nah, I think this one, I think the Eagles win.
Yeah,
And that's saying tough because I'll be honest, I picked the Vikings to win the last game. I'll be honest.
I picked the Eagles to beat the Vikings because then that was my description. Styles make fights. I don't think the Vikings match up. In a weird way, the Vikings are better than the Giants, but in a weird way, the Giants match up better with the Eagles. I still think the Eagles will win the game because they'll be hyper focused because they got embarrassed at MetLife Stadium. But I think it'll be a tough game. I think it'll be tougher than people think. That's my early take on that.
I had basically I'm a big environments guy, stadium guys, what have you. The Eagles always seem to have issues in Minnesota, no matter what team it is. So that's why I picked like, oh, okay, yeah. So I had them at the time pretty even, and then that one too. This week, I think they're still thinking about. You can sure they're motivated after getting the butt whooped a couple weeks ago. You sure that's in their mind? I think the Giants are in their heads a little bit. You got more tape on Jackson Dart, what they're trying to do now. So now you have a little bit more experience of what they have there. I think they pretty much Eastern Man felt like they got pushed off the ball a little bit more than they wanted to by the Giants line, what have you. So I think defense plays a little bit better. I think the offensive teams just rolling one. So I can see it still an interesting game, still being within a touchdown, but I think the Eagles win this game.
Chris, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining in today. You always make time for us. We appreciate it, my friend. Make sure you guys follow him at C. Franklin News. We'll be reading all your work, Chris. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one now.
Thanks, Chris.